welcome to this very, very special Libsyn live stream. My name is Brian Cottington, the video designer and editor here with Libsyn, and boy, oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. One, as you can tell, I'm in a very festive mood. It's a little orange because of, Halloween. No joke, I wanted to come out in a costume, but I was like, well, we're going to talk about Descript and editing. I don't know if, being someone else other than an editor for Halloween would make sense. But we're going to have fun today because just as we've been talking about for the past couple months now, I think literally since August, that we've been talking about editing for podcasters. And this month for our deep dive, we're going to be talking about using Descript, the video editing application that a lot of people use. And it's very unique and very full-featured. We're looking at specifically how you can use this for video podcasting. So if you're here today, I'm glad to have you here. But a little bit of housekeeping I want to get through first. Okay, first of all, if you are new here, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that follow button. Those things help us out, okay? So you never miss any of these special lives that come out. Outside of that, if you want to be one of the first people to find out when we have a new live going out, subscribe to the Libsyn Luma page, okay? Those are two primary ways that you can figure out when we're going to have a live and be the first to register for it, okay? Now, I am not alone in talking about Descript today. I have a very special guest. She is, honestly, I like to think of her as kind of the other half of my brain when we're working half the time. And the truth of the matter is that she really does a lot for our lives every single time that we put them out. So it gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome Cori Hengst to the live. Hey, Cori, how's it going?
Hi, it's going.
Yeah.
Here, we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. Cori literally is the person that a lot of you see whenever you see those like questions pop up in the lives, or you see like the links get put out, or even just like the pure organization of all of this madness. Cori quite literally is the woman behind the curtain. So it's a lot of joy for me to have her on, and especially that. But Cori is also, you're also a podcast producer as well, right?
I am indeed. I've been podcasting since 2011. Started
That's
with audio.
Longer than me.
Yeah. and I started with Libsyn. Actually, I was a customer before I was I worked there. Yeah.
So just like me, but it's great because we're going to be doing double duty in this, and it's going to be very fun. Now, I do want to point out that I mentioned before that Descript has a lot of bells and whistles, okay? It's a lot of bells and whistles. It's a very full-featured program, and there is no way in 1 hour that we could tackle this entire beast, okay? There is no way in 1 hour. So we're going to be focusing on some very core features. We're going to talk about how you can edit your video podcast in Descript, how you can use features like Underlord, which is one of the best names for a tool ever. Yeah, I really believe that. And how you can use it to do things like sweeten your audio, make your video better, and actually create social clips out of it. So we're going to be going through a lot of things. But let's start off. Well, Cori, have you used Descript before for some of your podcast episodes?
I have. I'm breaking out something special that I'd forgotten about. I have an Underlord pin.
You have an Underlord pin.
Yeah.
Nice.
See?
I need an Underlord pin.
Very special people have it.
Oh, okay. Okay, you got to be special.
I'm not so behind the scenes at conferences, so
That's right.
I find the interesting stuff. So
that's right. So, with that said, I honestly come from a background of using primarily professional video editing tools like Premiere Pro. So I'll be the first to tell you that for me, using Descript in the past couple weeks, just kind of prep for this live, kind of a new territory. I feel kind of in line with a lot of our creators who are like, I'm kind of lost in the tech. So I was with you these past couple weeks trying to really get my bearings on Descript. But I can tell you that it is extremely powerful and extremely useful. And I really believe that it can cut down a ton of time. So without further ado, I do want to mention that Descript does have some free options, right? They have a free option, but we both found that it was limiting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it is worth noting that, if you are going to be using Descript, that you may want to just spring for the more paid version. Just because a lot of the tools we're going to be talking about here today really do work better with that paid version. So just keep that in mind. It's not a deal breaker in my opinion, but I look at it as if, the amount of a monthly cost, I don't think was too terribly much, but we are going to be using a paid version. And we are going to be using one that actually is designed for teams. So that's the one first thing I want to say is that if you're working with a team, Descript's great. So without further ado, we want to jump in to the demo?
Let's do
it.
I think so. Oh, and let it be said also that when you sign up for Descript before you get into any of the paid stuff, you get a month for free. And you can tool around in it and make it as simple for yourself, or, if you want to get more into it, go for it.
Definitely. And I did want to point out, Callie and Elsie from the Libsyn team are in the chat. And if you do have questions along the way, please do me a favor, put a Q followed by a colon in the chat. Our team will flag it for us, and we will have questions at the end. So I want to make sure that we do get those questions answered, but keep them coming because I really want to spend time on making sure that everyone who comes here today has a full understanding of how this program works. So are you ready, Cori?
Ready.
Okay, let's jump into it. So I'm going to first talk about a little bit of the basic operation of Descript. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. And this right here is kind of the drive space. The nice thing about Descript is that if you use something like Google Drive, this sort of interface will look very, very familiar. Okay, so this right here is kind of the drive space we have, and we have a couple projects that we've created. But if I wanted to create a new project, which that's the first step that anyone who is going to be creating a podcast episode in, up here in the corner, we can hit on new project, and we can choose what our project is. So even if you aren't a video podcast specifically, okay, if you're not a video podcast specifically, you can still use Descript because you can create an audio project, right? I will tell you though that just kind of a good good practice is if you're going to be doing audio only, might as well just record the video so that you can at least have that back and forth with your guest. So I'm going to choose, just for our sake of argument here, just the video project. Okay, and you get presented with this window here. Now this is where you can do a couple different things here. All right, so we can name our project. Okay, we can name this. So might name this just like test, episode. Okay. And we can then choose what we want to do to the actual script portion right here. So we can choose to add a file. We can do that, or we can choose to record. I'm going to actually click on the record button here, which will actually allow us to record directly into Descript. Okay. So recording into Descript, really easy. Literally, if you're a solo podcaster, this is great because you can record right into here. It's going to transcribe your recording and allow you then to edit this thing via text. And that right there is the real power of Descript, is that if you're not someone who likes to edit based off of waveforms, if you're not someone who likes to edit in a traditional sense, you can edit based off of the type, okay, based off of the what the actual transcript is. So
let it also be said, just so people know, we're not going to get into it too much here, but they have a feature called Rooms, right, where you can record with other people, but we're not going to use that today.
No, and that's honestly because of the fact that we're live. If we weren't live, if this was something that was pre-recorded, I'd probably go into that. But obviously, internet, I don't want to risk it. But yeah. So we're not going to be recording with Rooms. Rooms, basically, it used to be Squadcast, and that's now rolled into it. But recording just as a solo podcaster, very easy. You have your ability to choose your camera. You have your ability to choose your audio. You can't even choose a screen if you wanted to share it, which I don't really know why you would need that, but you might. Who knows? And then it just becomes a matter of recording. Okay, so I'm going to just do a very quick test recording. It's like the day before Halloween, so let's pretend that this is my first episode of Brian's Halloween Corner. Okay, this is the only time. It's Brian's Halloween Corner. All right, so let me just hit record here. It'll give you a little countdown. And we can do kind of a test, check 1, 2 type deal. And we can just see, okay, is it actually going to record? Well, I think it is. So welcome to Brian's first episode of his Halloween Corner. And I hope everything's working fine because I'm not seeing the little level go up and down. But let's just hit stop there and see if that worked. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. And let's see here. Yeah. So it did not record my audio, and I'm guessing that is because of the fact that I'm using I'm going live right now. So that's okay. That's all right. Let me try to refresh this. Okay, check. Yep, there we go. All right, let's try this again. Yep, I can see it going up and down there. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Welcome to the very first episode of Brian's Halloween Corner. I'm Brian, and yes, we are recording an episode the day before Halloween. Will it go out the day before Halloween? I don't know. It might go out next Halloween. But the point is that I'm recording this very easy test, and let's just say I'm going to go ahead and do an and try to see if that will pull up all of the words that I should not include in my episode because I want to trim those down, right? So let's just hit stop here and see what Descript gives us here. So it's going to process our recording.
You got all the words in there, Brian.
I got all the words in there. Hey, there we are. And it's transcribed it. I've got all the words in there. So this is the real power of it, right? Is that everything I said popped up right in here. And we can just kind of take a look here. One, we can just highlight portions and it immediately just plays back. Right? Might go out next Halloween. Okay. So just from a basic standpoint of being able to navigate a recording, you can easily do that just by highlighting portions. Okay. The first thing, though, I would suggest to anyone who is using Descript to do, if you even are recording into this, or maybe you are using Rooms, is to add in your speaker name. So I just might add in myself so that anytime that, say, I come in, or maybe later down the line, I want to record at this point right here, because you can, as you're going through this transcript, find portions, hit record again, and record kind of into it. So you can kind of do kind of block recording if you wanted to. But what's nice about this is that just how easy it is. Like, for instance, right here, I don't want this check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I want to delete that. Okay. So I'm going to highlight it. And the minute I do that, I have a couple options that pop up right here. And I want to make sure I can zoom in on these so you all can see these. Right. So we have a couple options just with this section right here. We can add in layers. Okay. We can ask Underlord to do something with this text. We can correct it. So for whatever reason, my last name's Cottington, and let me tell you something. For about 39 years, my last name has always been messed up, and it's even been messed up by AI. So more often than not, my last name might be screwed up. So I can come in here and just change the transcript. That's not going to necessarily fix and kind of adjust it on my recording itself. But if you're using this for captions, let's say you're going to put in captions after the fact, or maybe you use this for, say, social media files that go out afterwards, making sure that your transcript's accurate is important. We also have replace. Now, this is where you can do things like overdub and regenerate. That's kind of madness and insane. I don't.
So cool.
It's really cool. It's really, really cool. So you can select that portion and maybe, you screw up someone's name or you say the wrong thing, or maybe you had a fact that you put out, but for whatever reason, because of the fact you're recording, you forgot one little element of it. You could actually record or overdub or regenerate based off of that section there. And then we have this right here, which is the ignore function. Now, users of Descript kind of have two different options for deleting text, okay? You could do kind of what I kind of call a hard delete, which is literally just you delete it from the transcript. And it'll work fine, right? Like, we could come back here. Welcome to the very first episode of Brian's Halloween Corner. Okay. And it's working fine, right? It's got rid of it. But the problem though is that for elements that maybe you trim in terms of like for content, maybe there's a tangent or something like that that really, it went off for a good 10 minutes and kind of deviated from the podcast flow itself. If you ever wanted to go back to that, or maybe you wanted to use that as a social media clip, you won't be able to find it on the transcript because you've done a hard delete. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Z to bring this back here. But instead, what we can do is what I think is the better way of working, which is doing an ignore. Okay, so this little strike through button here, this is called the ignore button. And if we click that, we get the same thing where it's deleted it from our transcript and deleted it from our recording, but we can still we can bring it back, right? So if I play it back now, welcome to, it's the same, right? But the difference is now is that I can always bring back portions of this. I can revert it if I wanted to. Okay. So that's something I would suggest doing, is that if you're going to edit in Descript, use the ignore button. And then, if you want to bring portions back, you can do unignore. This is just a nice way of working. And it's honestly a thing that as a Premiere Pro user, I wish that Premiere had, because it doesn't have this. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Adobe, maybe put in an ignore thing into your transcript editor. But it's just a nice way of working, right? Because even if I do something like remove all of my ums, and uhs, as I do an they can always be brought back, because you might find that even though you have those filler words in there, you might not want to delete every filler word. You might want to have some kind of sprinkled in to make it actually feel like a natural podcast, right? So that is just kind of the basic of trimming sections here. So I'm just going to go through, welcome to the very first episode of Brian's Halloween Corner. And I might get rid of we're going to get rid of, and yes, we'll recording go out on Halloween day. I don't know. Maybe we'll get rid of this part here. So we'll just go through and we'll kind of ignore that. I'll select my ums and ahs and just ignore that. Now I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. There is a much easier way and faster way using the world-famous Underlord. But right there, I'm going to get rid of this. Let's hit stop and get rid of this space here. We don't need that. Okay. And we got a there. Let's get rid of that there. Okay. Now, this is all well and good. Okay. And if we play this back, just starting from kind of the top here, welcome to the very first episode of Brian's Halloween Corner. I'm Brian. Will it go out the day before Halloween? I don't know. It might go out next Halloween. But the point is that I'm recording this very easy test, and let's just say, yeah, so that's good. Now, I'll go the solo shot on this one here. Okay. I'm a video editor type of person, and I like to use Premiere Pro. Now, one of the things that you might run into as a newbie or someone who's coming from, say, using something more comprehensive like Premiere Pro is the idea of seeing a timeline. Okay. I know for me, I like to see a timeline. I like to see how things are laid out, but don't worry, because you do have that option to script. Let me show you. Okay. So if we just kind of come out here at the very bottom, it's kind of hard to see with this, but you can click on the show timeline button. And this right here is why I love Descript, because I can kind of work in a way that fits my brain, right? And still have the tools that make the really cool things work, right? I love this text-based editing, but I also like to just be able to see my timeline in action. So just by clicking the show timeline, we can see all of that. We have some traditional editing tools up here, like the blade and the slip and slide tools. So these are all kind of very traditional video editing tools that if you are someone who comes from that background, don't worry, this program can help you. Okay. Now, let's see, where am I missing anything? Am I missing anything, Cori?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No.
So we talked about delete, ignore. I do want to talk a bit about something that I run into a lot, and that is the idea of putting, say, an intro or outro on top of your podcast, right? Because let's say you're like me, you want to have like a fancy intro at the beginning. Okay. Now, I'm going to get out of this episode and come back to one that I've already worked on here, okay? So this is actually an episode from my podcast, The Cinema Psycho Show. And with this one, I wanted to have an intro right at the very beginning. No, I already spoiled it for y'all. So I'll leave it that way.
Brian!
Okay? You weren't supposed to see that peek behind the curtain, but it's okay. So this is a multicam edit that we're gonna talk about in a minute here. But one of the things that I know for me personally, I like to have is because you're doing a video podcast, you want to have actual video elements, right? Outside of just a talking head. There's nothing wrong with that, but you want to spice it up a bit, okay? And this is something that I think for video editors who come from a traditional space, this can be kind of unusual to work with, okay? So for me, I want to have an intro that kind of comes in right at the top and then kind of disappears, right? Transitions, and then my music kind of comes over it, all right? Now, I have an opener that I've already made, okay? And this could be you. You could have gotten an opener made from, say, like Fiverr or whatever, or maybe you worked with a third party. But the point is, we want to have that opener kind of come in and kind of lead into this conversation here. Now, it's really easy in Descript, but it's a little unusual if you're a traditional video editor, okay? So in Descript, the way I'm going to do this is we want to first go to our project, okay? And then we're going to bring in our files. Now, I've already brought in this file here. This is my opener with music. And I'm just going to click and drag it down here on top of my script area. All right. Now, this is a layer. And that's the important thing to note is that Descript does work in layers, kind of like Photoshop. Okay. What you have on top is most visible, and beneath that is the script layer. Okay. So I want to make sure that this intro plays for a few seconds before I actually cut to myself. So I'm going to just give myself a little bit of time, and we can do that just by kind of hovering over here and just dragging out. Oh, let me move this over a little bit. Yeah. Just dragging out our time a bit. There we go. Giving ourselves a little bit of space. Okay. And we can then drag our layer over here, and we can kind of preview it. So my intro kind of comes in. I still want a little bit more time. And we can always just add a little bit of buffer. And that's what I'm doing here, is just adding a bit of buffer.
Oh, let's,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of that.
I love your open for your show.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
It's colorful. It's fun.
It's fun.
It pops.
It pops. Exactly. Okay. So we got a little bit of a buffer there. And then it becomes a matter of kind of modifying this to do exactly what I want, right? So the first thing I'm going to do with this, if we play this back, it's going to be super loud, but... It's like, all right, so way too loud. All right, so I'm going to just select this element here, and we'll just come into the layer for it. And I'm just going to turn the audio of this thing down a bit. Okay, so like make it maybe closer to like 9.1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and that's great and all, but you can't see me, and you also can't really hear me because that music is playing. Okay, now let's solve the first problem of being able to hear me. Okay, that is actually relatively simple. If we click on our script layer, we actually have the option. I believe it's under. Is it layer? No. Yeah, it's layer. So right under here, under audio settings, audio effects, we can turn on ducking. Okay, and then we can choose how much we want to reduce our audio by, like what our actual final percentage is. I'm going to bring this down to something like 8%. And if we now play this back. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show. Yep. Bring that up a bit. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the Madhouse for Film Freak. Let's turn that down even more. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the Madhouse film. Yeah. So it's definitely reducing down our volume. The other way that you could do this if you didn't want to do ducking is you could disable that and instead do kind of a traditional keyframe type thing. So we could, add a volume keyframe here, another volume keyframe here, and then just kind of move them down. So you can kind of work that way if you prefer. Welcome to these. So actually, in this case, I kind of like that a bit better. Okay. Now, that's all well and good, but you still cannot see me, right? And that's kind of important. We still need to be able to see me, all right? Now, the way that you can do this, and this took me a little bit of time to figure out, is actually by animating something custom. So if I click on this custom animation here, I can actually come over here and animate the opacity. Hey, there I am. Okay. So now if we play this back, welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show. We have a transition. Freaks and film fans of all types. Okay. So that's kind of one easy way of being able to bring in this sort of intro graphic or anything. Honestly, if you had some sort of B-roll you wanted to throw in, just bring it in as a layer, and then you can put it wherever you want. Okay, so that is kind of how this all works. It is important to note, again, this is a multicam sequence, right? And Cori, am I missing anything here on bringing in B-roll?
No, yeah, I mean, just perhaps where they can find it. Once they bring it in, there's also a file that you can pull from.
Exactly. So in the project, you'll bring those files in. It's also worth noting that Descript also has a lot of stock elements that are built in that you can add in too. So maybe you don't have access to a stock website, you can bring them in to Descript that way. Now, with multicam, okay, this is worth going to a solo shot here. Multicam is something that Descript does exceptionally well. It does it in a little bit of a different way than you might be used to in other programs. I know for me it was a little bit different, but multicam in this program works a little differently. So what I've done here, and just because I want to show this process, okay, is we have a podcast that Cori, you produce this podcast, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. What's the name of the podcast so that they get some eyeballs?
It's called ears? What I Know So Far with Karen Mills and Trish Sur. They're two stand-up comics.
Nice. So with these files, these were recorded, and I'll jump to kind of our we're already completed version of this. Okay. Well, kind of, show you this one. So this was already imported. Okay. Now, if we were going to start fresh, the same way that we got to kind of that recording aspect of it, that can be done with importing files. So these files were recorded in Riverside. One thing I'm going to suggest to you all is that if you are doing anything with multicam, and they're coming specifically from Riverside, make sure you're using the constant frame rate versions of those files. Okay, the CFR files. These are very important because that is going to make sure that both of your sources are lined up. Okay, it's kind of important. Okay, because you're noticing the one trend here is that there's no real breakdown of multiple cameras like you would see in Premiere or even Final Cut for that matter. So make sure they're all lined up, they're all properly lined together. And then you import them, and then what it actually does is it turns it into one file that's already pre-synced. You can put in the names of each one of your participants in the recording, so it makes it really easy. Okay. Now I'm gonna go through this process. I'm gonna show you live. This is gonna be live here. Okay. So this is kind of right now looking like a traditional Descript recording, right? But we can actually use Underlord to do some work for us when it comes to multicam. Okay, so right over here, there's a button. Let me see if I can zoom in on this here. All right, so right over here, automatic multicam. All right. If we click this, okay, we have a couple options here. All right. So we can choose how we want our multicam set up. We can select if it's going to be automatic, only show the active speaker. Okay. We can do cutaways if we want to. Maybe you want reaction shots or something. So this can all be customized before we actually choose to actually make the multicam happen. Okay. So for this one, let's just do, only show active speaker. Oh, actually, we'll do automatic. Just keep the stock settings. And camera setup, we can click this, and you can choose, which speaker is what speaker. So, maybe you recorded in an actual studio and you have multiple speakers on one. You can kind of assign those automatically here, okay? So this is already set up really well. Trish is on Trish's track. Karen's on Karen's track. And then you can choose what your layout's going to be. Now, this is really neat. Okay, so in here, you can choose the style of layout that you want your multicam to be. Okay, so you can do multicam with just full screen, multicam with borders. These are all built into Descript, which is really neat. For our purpose, though, I'm going to just stick with kind of the stock multicam, no borders, just because I think it looks the cleanest. And what's nice about this is you have some pre-built layouts. And layouts are really important once we actually activate the multicam. So let's say use this layout pack, and we'll hit submit. Now it's going to work. It's going to go through, and it is automatically done the heavy lifting for us of making our cameras switch. This is so cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Now, what has multicam actually done? This is again something that's very important to bring up because the way that Descript works is a little bit different than other editors. Over here off to the side, it's created what are called scenes. Okay. So what we had at the top was just one scene, one clip. I like to think of it as like one shot. Okay. And you can tell what scene is what because as I highlight them, they're kind of, showing up here. So like if we move our playhead down, we can see at the top we're in scene 1. Then we move to scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, right at the top here. Okay. And you can create scenes manually. If you hit the / button on any of your transcript, you can create a scene automatically. But these are in essence the different shots of your multicam. And while multicam does a decent job automatically, you're going to run into issues where you're like, well, maybe I don't want, say, a 1 shot here or a 2 shot here. Maybe I want it to be, a solo shot on Trish and a solo shot on Karen, right? And all these it's doing is it's using the layouts that we picked to kind of formulate these, all right? So, but like, let's say for whatever reason, I'm going to use this as an example here. So, right now I can see that we've got, a good solo on Trish, right? This is Trish?
Yeah.
Okay. But we don't really have a solo on Karen. Okay. So I might want to create a solo shot for Karen. Okay. It's not that hard. Let's just take this one, for instance, here. Okay. So what we can do is we can actually select Trish, delete, and then adjust Karen to be solo.
That's so easy.
It's so easy. And it's so cool because here's the great thing. If at any time in my podcast that I want to then take this solo shot and reuse its layout, all I have to do is right click, choose copy layout, come down to that scene. So like maybe one of these 2 shots, I don't want it to be on like this right here. It looks like it's on Karen. She's saying something. So right click, paste layout, boom. Automatically, we've got that camera layout. Okay. It's really, really cool.
So nice.
Yeah. So, Cori, do you want to go through kind of the process of editing this thing for clarity and doing some kind of fine-tuning work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me add it.
So, it's a cool thing, too, is that because I've made it into multicam, on Cori's end, she should be able to see. Are you able to see that it showed up? on your
Oh
end?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually Cori's screen now. It's not mine. So what you're seeing is actually a very live edit right here. And what she's going to do is then going to reflect on my end. So Cori, you
Yeah.
take it away from here. What are we going to be doing to this edit here?
Well, first, let it be said that what the script can't do for you is make a better recording. If your lights are weird, if your audio's weird, it'll fix some of the audio um, really nicely, but you're not going to be able to fix the colors if somebody's too dark, somebody's too light, and there's a little bit of that here, and I have a tendency to fix that in Premiere because that's also
Right.
where I'm most comfortable. But okay, so Underlord gives you a lot of options here, um, because you can edit for different things. You can center the camera. You can fix the eye contact, although I think, Brian, you and I kind of found that a little odd.
It was weird. It was real creepy. And
So,
like it actually like we did a test recording of this stuff a couple days ago, Cori and I like I noticed that my eye shifting just kind of made it weird for me. And I the whole idea of fixing your eye contact in post, it just is strange.
yeah.
I think it works fine if you're doing like a talking head YouTube video, but for a podcast, I mean, I don't know about you all. You've probably all noticed in this live that I've moved around a lot, so I don't know how it's tracking my eye movement like that. But it's definitely a little weird.
Well, it has a tendency to look very robotic.
Yeah.
It kind of that. But if somebody's eyes are like somewhere else, it's a fix, and if it makes you feel better, do it.
I guess so.
Yeah. Brian's like, no, not doing that.
Uh-uh.
So for this particular podcast, I have to go through that script because there is a lot of ahs, likes. It'll take out like well and so's as well. So you have to be careful that when you're taking those things out, like it's not like that. Like it's not taking out context for you.
Yeah.
So super easy. You don't have to highlight anything. All you have to do is go remove filler words. You go in there and it gives you a list on the side. There's two ways you can do it. So you highlight it and it'll play it for you.
Gorge, you look
right?
Yeah.
So Gorge, you want to take one of those out? Hit remove.
whatever. No, well, look, at least
And it takes it all out. Or you go to, and it'll take you through, like as you go through each one, it will take it out. Like if you hit skip, it'll take that, like it'll take it out of the side of your screen. So you don't have to deal with it. But be careful, if you hit skip and you didn't mean to, then you have to kind of go back and start the process all over again.
Well, the cool thing to note too, Cori, is that at the top, right over top of the actual script itself, you have the option of what you want to do to those. So, I mentioned earlier that you could ignore the words, and you can actually set this up to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you have kind of as a hard delete, you could set it, hey, just ignore, and you're good to go.
But I go through them all. Or one thing to take note of is when you take out these words, it'll edit it right on the video, and what that does is it creates a jump. So it's a jump cut. So if you have somebody that's likes back to back, it's gonna it's gonna look like a little Max Headroom, and that ages me. I apologize.
No, it doesn't. Max Headroom's
but it's
awesome.
Like yeah. So you're gonna see those jump cuts, and you don't have the option of adding some smoothing transition like you would in other programs. But at a super basic level, taking out those ums and ahs really kind of helps your the flow of your podcast, even if it's not exactly great. So look, you can see the highlight of all of these ums and ahs, hello, double words, repeater words. It'll take those out as well. So I'm just going to hit remove all, and It takes them all out. See, search results all
Crazy.
gone. So there it is. So you have a clean audio, clean video without any of those words. So then go back to Underlord and hit edit for clarity, edit intensity. Like, it will take out spaces. It will take out things that are confusing. So, I don't have any of those right now because we took, we have this is a portion of this podcast.
Right.
But it will take out entire phrases if it doesn't make sense within the context. So you have to, really be careful and listen through and know what you've got when you when you recorded your podcast. Maybe
Right.
write down places where you have some of these things said that you might want to keep in or take out, because it will take it out.
Well, I think it's one of the things that, the Underlord is obviously, it's an AI thing, and it's definitely powerful. But like with everything that's AI, you kind of want to still have a human doing the main like ideation of it and kind of be in control. I like the idea of being a light touch on things like clarity, just because there might be a moment where maybe you as the podcaster really did want to focus on a specific phrase and a specific word, and you paused because it was a moment that you wanted to include. The AI isn't going to know that. Okay, you know that as the podcast producer and as the editor. So it's still something where, kind of use these sort of things with a light touch until you really get a handle for it.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Oh, absolutely. Once you're used to the program, then it's a lot easier to go through and do things quickly. But in the meanwhile, use a light touch, like Brian said, and it will it'll adapt to what you're doing. So I have found that this AI will do things like, oh gosh, there's so many things. This is so great for just someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in using the bigger programs, and it gives you so much more functionality than other programs that I won't mention because I like them too. It'll do retakes. You can, like, if you say, hey, welcome to, and you get stuck and you start again, you hit remove retakes and it will take those out. Like, it's so smart. But again, use the light touch and really thoughtful when you're going into it. It'll take out the word gaps, shorten word gaps, like right here. Shorten to 1 second, shorten all. Let's see where it shortened 2 word gaps, because sometimes you pause, like, we've been talking about, you'll pause and you forget what you're going to say, or the other person doesn't answer right away. I don't know, if you have an interview style podcast, sometimes it takes them a minute to talk or answer your question. So you want to shorten those out too, because it messes with the flow of the podcast, especially if you've been having a good time and you're just getting into it, and they, like, all of a sudden, deer in headlight happens, and I've had all of those happen to me. Studio sound. You can get into the studio sound and fix a few things. You can fix levels. It will do it for you automatically. It'll do your ducking, but be careful with all of these things. When you start, just play with it, because if you overdo your audio effects, if you overdo any of these elements, it will distort the voices, and it'll distort, or somebody will talk a little lower and it'll think that that's a pause, and it'll take that out, and then you'll be missing a chunk of what that person is saying. So be super, super careful with that. So you can fix for clarity. So it will help you get the flow going, and take out phrases and words that you don't need in there, or it doesn't deem good for your podcast.
Right.
It'll take out your retakes. It'll take out the word gaps. It'll take out the filler words. I used to do that by hand. And
Oh, yeah.
I used to, there was a podcast that I used to be on that it was a couple hours long, and it took me hours to do. And with these simple little shortcuts, it like your time will be reduced by a lot. So it's super helpful. Let's see, what am I missing here? Am I missing anything?
I don't think you're missing. The one thing to
there's
note
so
is
much.
just that Underlord can also do things like for if you're putting this out on YouTube, if you can,
Mhm.
if you want to put chapters in, you can add in chapters, and you can
Yeah.
repurpose things, which I want to talk a bit about repurposing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Let's
I mean,
let's add chapters. Look right
yeah,
here.
you
So,
can add in chapters very easily.
and it'll give you the introduction. It'll give you a summary. It'll give you keywords. Just so many things.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on to social repurposing of your episodes?
Yeah. I think
Okay, cool.
that's also so great and adjustable.
Yes.
Before you start, adjustable, because sometimes AI doesn't get it quite right.
No, it doesn't always. So I'm gonna jump back to my episode here that I was working on, and that's also because I tested this out on this episode, so I kind of have an idea of what's gonna pull. But so just to give you a little context, this is a section from an episode I did with a filmmaker, actress. Her name's Anastasia Elfman. We did an episode on Lon Chaney Sr. It's very fitting for Halloween. So, what's neat about this is that I think everyone really struggles with finding what the best parts of a podcast episode are for social. So Underlord can kind of take that and kind of run with it. It's very similar to how Opus Clip works.
Mhm.
So if we come over to Underlord here and we come over to Repurpose. Oh, one thing I did want to mention first. Anytime you're going to do anything with Repurpose, it's just kind of good practice in my mind to make a duplicate of your project and work off of that. Okay.
Mhm.
So up here, if you click the little drop down, you can see your composition right here. If you click that, you can choose duplicate so that you're working off of a duplicate and not the original. Okay. I think it's just good practice. Anytime you're going to do any sort of remarketing of an episode, don't work off of that original, work off of a copy so you leave that original timeline intact. Okay.
Just in case.
Just in case. All right. But look at these things you can do here. You can create clips. You can create a highlight reel. You can find highlights. So if I just click on find highlights and, choose a number of people, it's actually going to I can click submit here. And you can even type in details to Underlord that you want it to focus on. I'm not going to do that for this one, but if maybe they're, over the course of your podcast recording, you're like, hey, I talked about cars during this section, and I really would like to focus on cars. Or maybe there was a key word that is really popular right now in social, and you want your social clip to be part of that keyword. You can just type it in and be able to pull it up. So if I just click submit, Underlord's going to think, and you can see right there, it highlighted exactly a clip here. Okay. So, if we just play this back, any person who's done special effects makeup, you've got on your Mount Rushmore people like Tom Savini, Dick Smith, and at the very tippity top is Lon Chaney Sr. That's such a really awesome clip that I can just imagine that being a social. Now, you could copy this directly into a new composition and work right off of that if you wanted to. But just in a very basic sense of being able to find portions that you might want to use in, say, an hour, 2-hour long podcast episode, this is really handy. But what really blows me away, and seriously, this blew me away when I saw this. I'm going to create a social clip right now using this process here. So I'm going to hit create social clips. I can specify the number of clips I want, my clip duration, how long I want these clips to be. Maybe if you're going for Instagram, you only got a minute 30. Or maybe if you're doing TikTok, you want it to be something like 20 seconds. I'm going to keep it at 30 seconds here. And then I can choose what the layout of these clips are going to be. So I want something like a caption clip. And then look at this. I have all of these different styles for my caption clip. I'm going to let's use this one right here, the Bento 3 Cam. That's what it's called. And we'll just click submit. And Underlord's going to think. And let's see what it gives us. Maybe it'll give me something different than I had last time. Because I did
but it won't stick to 30. Sometimes it'll go over.
Yeah, if it finds that, hey, that particular moment wasn't as good, then it will stick to. But you can see right here, I clicked on this clip, and just kind of like Descript, not Descript, but other applications that do this. Opus Clip. That's the one I was thinking of. Is Opus Clip.
Yeah.
It gives you
I'm like,
kind
which
of.
one?
I was like, there's a lot. It gives you kind of a star rating of how good these are, right? It gives you a title. It gives you reasons why this particular clip is good, and kind of gives you a summary of it. So, like, we just look at this section here. And just play this back. Person who's done special effects makeup. You've got on your Mount Rushmore people like Tom Savini, Dick Smith, and at the very tippity top is Lon Chaney Sr. Wouldn't you all agree?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of more people know his son, and it's because like we're talking the big.
Yeah. So you already have captions, you already have backgrounds, and then just like with everything, these are all layers, right? So like these are all things that you can adjust after the fact. If I wanted to make this smaller, I can make this smaller. If I wanted to change the color of these things, I can change the color, to something else. So it's very customizable.
Yeah.
Just because it's all based off of layers. It's really handy. And then, of course, you can export these things out separately. So it's really, really cool, very easy way of working. If you struggled with creating social clips, or even if just maybe you recorded something else, or maybe you use some other means, just being able to do this would make it worth purchasing right there. Like getting a subscription right there, just being able to create social clips on the fly like this.
Well, and like it's such a time saver. Even if you're adjusting those clips, it's a huge time saver because it's sussing out the ones that the AI thinks are going to be popular, that are going to get the most traction, that algorithm is going to kind of stick its fingers in and move it forward. So you can adjust it, and that's so easy and so helpful.
Right. Now, the final thing I want to mention before we get into questions is the idea of exporting, because exporting your stuff out of Descript is kind of important. Cori, do you want to talk a bit about exporting? Do you want me to jump into exporting?
Well, I can talk about some exporting.
Okay.
So, we're back to my screen.
Yeah, we're back to your screen.
There's so like we could do like 3 shows off of this because you can bring in so many elements. Okay, but let's talk about exporting right now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna say that this is the finished thing, which is not, because I wanted to show you so many other things. Yes. Oh, can I? I want, before I export.
Yeah.
Just make sure that all your, everything you want in there is in there. Just because, just so that like you don't have to go back into it. You can go back into it and re-export, but then that takes time, and you don't want to do that. Just double check it before you get into it.
Right.
So one of the things that I do before I hit export,
there
it is I add sort of a watermark. And YouTube, you have a way of always having your logo on the screen automatically, but I kind of like to do that. I like to add my own, because you're not just, if you're worth your salt in podcasting, you are going to post everywhere you can.
Yep.
So they don't all have the same functionality. So what I do is I add another layer. Brian,
nice.
You like the layers, but you can just drag and drop also.
Yeah.
and then, you know, you're going to look at it and go, oh no, it's not, it's too big. And how do I do that? It's so easy. All you have to do is reduce it and drag it where you want it.
Nice.
Like right there. Yeah. And that's it. And then you extend the timeline, you know, where you have it. You just right on the timeline. Wait. And just extend it all the way.
Very cool.
It's so easy. Oh, if you want to see your entire timeline, and it took me a while to figure this out, right at the bottom,
Yeah.
you see what my,
Yep.
you can extend it so you can see the entire thing. You can't, you know, it's hard to see something specifically, but like for something like, you know, this little watermark, it makes it easy to you know, add, like extend it to the entire thing. So now you have it in your
Everywhere.
entire episode.
That's
So
awesome.
that makes it super easy. Okay, so let's say you're all done. You've added your intro, your outro. You're ready to go. You come up here to the top right corner and you hit publish. It doesn't immediately publish it for you, right?
Right.
You can export it.
Yep.
And it'll export it to your computer. And you know, you're looking at the audio, metadata, all those things are on. Perfect. You just want the audio. You're just, you know, you want to just export the audio.
Yep.
Hit the audio.
One thing to note, if you click on that advanced button,
Oh yeah.
click on the little like switch there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can choose things like normalize your audio before you send it out there. So if you want to hit that -16 or -14 LUF mount, you can hit that right there and it'll make it set to that, which is really nice. So it does that normalization for you. You can also make it kind of mix down to mono by setting it only to 1 channels or 2 channels. You can change the sample rate. So there's some extra things if you are kind of an audio head first type person, you can specify that. One thing I did want to mention is with the publish feature. This is worth noting. So with the publish feature, you can publish direct to YouTube from this, which is handy. The only downside with the publish feature, well, actually, it's not a downside with the publish feature. It's the fact that the publish feature actually renders faster. So like for video things, if you know that you're going to go directly to YouTube, I really suggest just putting in your YouTube credentials and publishing directly from here because it's going to render a lot faster. It's not going to use your machine's resources, whereas exporting it will. So like I think for audio stuff, directly use export because you're just doing audio. But for going directly to YouTube, instead of waiting all that time for the rendering on your machine, you can just do it right there in YouTube and boom, you're connected.
So since we're talking about YouTube, here with that publish button, here is what it looks like.
Yep.
When you hit that, you can put your title in, your description, which I'm sure you would already have written out somewhere, and you can just copy paste.
Or you're asking Underlord to make a description for you.
Yes. And how you want it seen, private, public, unlisted, which are options that you have when you publish directly to YouTube.
I would always say make it private when you're exporting out from here.
Right. And then go into YouTube and check it and make sure that all the things you want in there are in there. So yeah, super, super, super easy. It will publish out to some platforms automatically. Spotify, I believe, is in there.
Yeah.
There's quite a
bunch.
few.
But you can also create GIFs. You can export the transcript. And here's the really cool thing. Let's say you are someone who is working with another editor who is using, say, Premiere Pro or Final Cut. You can actually export the timeline itself and bring it into an external editor and have all of your previous edits saved, which is really handy. So there's a lot that this platform can do, and I was really blown away by it, even coming from, say, a pro video background.
Well, me too, because as you know, I have a love for Adobe products as
Yep.
well. But you know, this can be as complicated or as easy as you make it. And I think that for someone who is looking for an all-in-one place to do this kind of editing for especially video, because that's so popular now, this is such a great place.
Yeah.
It gives you so much functionality. And
Cool.
you know, their support department's pretty good too, which is important.
That's important. That's important. All
Yeah.
right. So I want to take some questions from the audience. Again, if you have a question, the Q followed by colon and put it in the chat. I have a couple here. So let's pull these up here. Right here. So this is, can you upload a background for multicam layout and crop the shots? Yes, you can. So if you looked at kind of what I had done, let me actually just kind of jump over to my screen. I can show you this. So like in every one of these layouts here, okay, so every one of them, they basically are different layers. So like if I kind of bring this up, you can see that there is kind of this white background there. You know, I can come into my elements here and I can grab in different things like say a basic shape and kind of then come into the effects of that fill color, or go into say, you know, my project and upload something and drop it in. And then the neat thing about this is that I can change the layer order. So if I want this to be my background, I'll just send it back. And now you can see there it is. So now that could be my custom background, okay? Like I'm just using an element from Descript, but yes, if I had a custom background, you can absolutely bring it in there. And then the best part is, it's like if you love this and you want to keep it with say that custom background, you can just save it as a preset.
Mhm.
You know, if we right click on any of these things, you can see I can not only copy a layout, I can paste a layout, I can save a layout too. So that means you could save it as a custom one that you can use across multiple projects.
Yeah.
So good question.
I have a tendency to use Canva also to
Yep.
create elements to drop into different videos. And on what I know so far, I bring it into Descript and I add like corners
Yep.
that I created as PNGs on Canva with a transparent background, and I just drop them in, size them up the way I want them, and it looks professional. Like it looks super professional and super easy.
All right, so let's get to our next question here. This is from Bill. He's like, I use Squadcast, SC on left, and Script on the right of screen. What is a good hack to make sure that I look at the camera? Okay. Cori, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Stop looking at yourself.
Yes.
Because the tendency is to do this, and I do that a lot because I make faces and I don't want to make faces. So look at your camera. Stop like looking at what you think you should be looking at, but look at your camera. That's the best thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes practice. I know for me, I kind of don't care anymore. Like I got to that point for things like this. I do try to look at the camera when I can, or at least when I'm going to address the audience on something. Like when we do solo shot, I'm obviously going to look at you, the audience.
Right.
But it's something where when I'm actually doing my podcast, I kind of lean into the fact that I think it's okay to not be perfect when it comes to that. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I mean, if you watch my podcast, I literally am using my Stream Deck. I'm like, all right, let's go to our next thing. And looking down, you hit my Stream Deck and then cutting to it and going back. I think it's okay. Even if you look at like Howard Stern, when he did his video stuff, like he's looking down when he's talking, or he's looking at the person. So I think you have to kind of give yourself a little leeway. Be okay that it's not 100% perfect in terms of eye line, or you could use the Underlord eye line corrector if you want to. Maybe it works for you. But in terms of like placement, I mean, where I have my camera right now is dead set between two monitors, which does help on that front, but it does take a little bit of training on your part.
100%. And the more you do it, the more used to it you'll get.
Yep.
And, Brian and I had a couple moments where I was like, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
It's like you look at the camera. Imagine that
Yeah.
I'm the camera. that's
I'm super comfortable in the background, but in front of the camera, I feel like I
Oh,
turn
you're
into like
you're
a
doing great.
weirdo. I know, except for now that I did that.
Doing great. All right, so let's bring up this one. This is from Jay, and it is: when using the Underlord feature to remove filler words, are there tips for ensuring video continuity so that we don't see awkward cuts in the footage, or do jumpy cuts not matter so much on video? Guess what? I went to school for video, and I was always told don't have jump cuts. But the truth of the matter is that style is okay. I think within reason, though. I think that's the key there is it's within reason. If you're editing something, you realize like, wow, for me to just say, welcome to the podcast, and you have so many jump cuts, then maybe consider re-recording that. But I think that just like with the idea of, I'm going to make sure I'm looking directly at the camera, it's a stylistic feature that is common. I'm so immune to it now. It's not even a big deal. Wouldn't you agree, Cori?
Yeah, I agree with you. I cringe a little still, just
Yeah.
a little,
Just
but
a little.
but it's so common. It's so commonly used. It's either people don't care or don't have the ability to know to add that you can smooth that out. But
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter anymore unless it just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Like
I will say that I do find that the jump cuts created by Descript are much cleaner and smoother than in Premiere Pro when I've used their text edit feature. So there is something, whatever magic they're doing on Descript's end, to make those cuts, at least in the audio, not nearly as abrupt. Good,
Well, I always find audio is a lot easier in that sense because you're not watching the jump cut happen, and it smooths it out really nicely.
Yeah. And then Jay has another question here, and it is: how does Descript's collaborative functionality work for video projects? Can multiple editors work on a video simultaneously? And are there features for version control and tracking of edits? So we've been using the collaborative feature this entire time. Okay, so that's something to note, is that Cori and I have been working on the same project. Now, for me, and this is something just because I have not tested this particular feature out nearly as much, I don't think you can have two editors working on something at the same time in tandem, right? I think we tried.
You have to refresh.
Yes. Yeah.
As you're working, you can be doing it simultaneously, but you have to refresh in order to see the other person's edits.
Yes. And I don't think there was anything that I noticed on terms of like a versioning control or anything like that. I know DaVinci Resolve does have a collaborative functionality that you literally can work on the same edit at the same time. Premiere Pro also has that built in, I believe, with Frame.io. So, I mean, those are kind of built for this. I think what I love about this collaborative feature is just that it's very no fuss, right?
Yeah.
Cori and I have access to this particular project. I could actually, while she was doing the studio sound, this is something that's neat, I could see on my end the waveform adjusting, okay, and refreshing in almost real time. But it is worth noting that it's not complete no latency, type of collaborative editing. That sort of thing, look at higher end programs like DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even something like Canva has that collaborative feature that you can do it at the same time. You're working on the same project at the same time, but this one doesn't, not in the same way.
Yeah, not in the same way. I think it's good if, say, you've got someone who's kind of, being your social media person, and they want to be able to very quickly get in, pull some social media clips. I mean, that's where I think this collaborative feature comes in. You have one person who's doing the main edit, another person who's doing social media clips for the week. Have them go in while maybe you're working on it. And you're not going to be able to clip out stuff, but maybe to do that kind of copying over to another, composition, that's where I think the collaboration side of it works really well. Okay. any other questions here in the chat? Any questions here on Descript?
We went a little over.
We went a little over, but I wanted to make sure that we gave a pretty full feature deep dive on this sucker.
It's so good. Just spend time on it. Go in, sign up for free, and spend time on it and play with it.
Definitely.
Because it really is super, super helpful and a time saver.
Last call for questions. Going once, going twice. Okay. Okay. Well, Cori, where can people find more information about you, the shows you produce? Where can they find you at?
They can find me on Instagram at Cori Fry. That's got all my things in it, by the way. So
all the things.
All the things. I repost the podcasts that I work on. I do some YouTube shows also that are fantastic and also easy to use on Descript, by the way.
Nice. Outside of that, if you are, again, watching us here on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, hit the like button. That stuff really helps us out. And on top of that, if you want to know when the next live events are, okay, outside of subscribing to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on the Luma page, the Libsyn Luma page. That's that's our first spot that we put live events, so you get notified immediately when a live event is happening and you can register for it. Thank you all again who've attended this live. Thank you, Cori, for popping in. I know this is kind of weird because you're in front of the camera, but you honestly, you knocked it out of the park. You knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
You really did. And thank you all again for joining. And of course, with me being a fan of Halloween and horror movies and things like that, hope everyone has a nice, happy Halloween. And with that said, we will see you all next time.
Bye.